Objective. After listening to this module, you'll be able to identify the importance of keeping things in perspective. Keep it in perspective. Pete went to his doctor for a complete physical examination. The doctor called him a few days later and said, "The lab reports are in. I have bad news and worse news." Confused and troubled, Pete said, "Bad news and worse news? Well, what's the bad news?" "You have 24 hours to live," the doctor informed him. "The lab reports are conclusive." In shock, Pete could only say, 24 hours? Well, what's the worst news? "Oh, that," the doctor answered, casually looking down at some papers. "I meant to call you yesterday." Sometimes things go from bad to worse. Sometimes just when you see a light at the end of the tunnel, it turns out to be the headlight of an oncoming train. When we're hurting, it does little good for someone to tell us it could be worse. It already feels worse. On the other hand, our problems really are only a matter of perspective. One of the most powerful and effective power phrases is, "It could be worse." The primary purpose of this power phrase is to help you keep things in perspective. If you're more of a worrier, then this technique might not work for you because you'll stress yourself out by thinking how things could be worse because you think they might actually get worse. But for most people, this is a fairly good technique. To illustrate how things could be worse, here's an actual accident report submitted by a bricklayer in the West Indies. "My supervisor asked me to bring down some excess bricks from the 3rd floor, so I rigged a beam and pulley, hoisted up a barrel, and tied it in place. After filling the barrel with bricks, I returned to the ground and untied the rope, intending to lower the barrel to the ground. Unfortunately, I misjudged the weight of the bricks. As the barrel started down, it jerked me off the ground so fast and so far, I was unable to let go. Halfway up, I met the barrel coming down and received a severe blow on the shoulder. I then continued to the top, banging my head against the beam and getting my fingers jammed in the pulley. When the barrel hit the ground, it burst its bottom, allowing the bricks to spill out. I was not heavier than the barrel, and so I started down again at high speed. Halfway down, I met the barrel coming up and received severe injuries to my shins. When I hit the ground, I landed on the bricks, getting painful cuts from the sharp edges. At this point, I must have lost my presence of mind because I let go of the line. The barrel came down, giving me another heavy blow on the head and putting me in the hospital. So if you're having a bad day, think of this poor bricklayer and how your day could be worse. In addition to encountering a ton of stressors in a particular day, it's also stressful to fail at something, failing a class, failing with a business venture, failing to get chosen for a promotion at work, etc., etc. It's critical to keep things in perspective regarding that quote-unquote failure by reminding yourself that things could be worse. Keep things in perspective by reminding yourself that Dr. Seuss, probably the most well-known writer of children's books, was rejected by 23 publishers before he finally got published. In his early business, Henry Ford, known for his innovative assembly line and American-made cars, initially failed with his business, which left him broke 5 times before he founded the successful Ford Motor Company. Walt Disney was fired by a newspaper editor because he quote-unquote lacked imagination and had no good ideas. After that, Disney started a number of businesses that didn't last too long, and he ended up bankrupt. He kept plugging along, however, and eventually found a recipe for success that worked. Albert Einstein was a genius and a Nobel Prize winner, but he didn't speak until he was 4 and didn't read until he was 7, causing his teachers and parents to think he was mentally handicapped and slow. Eventually, he was expelled from school. Oprah Winfrey, a billionaire and a woman with her own TV channel, endured a rough and abusive childhood as well as numerous career setbacks, including being fired from her job as a television reporter because she was quote-unquote unfit for TV. Elvis Presley, one of the best-selling artists of all times, was fired after just one performance and was told, quote, "You ain't going nowhere, son. You ought to go back to driving a truck," end quote. Michael Jordan, the best basketball player of all time, was actually cut from his high school basketball team. Luckily, Jordan didn't let this setback stop him from playing the game, and he has stated, "I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. On 26 occasions, I have been entrusted to take the game-winning shot, and I missed. I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Stephen King, famous for writing 50 critically critically acclaimed novels and selling over 350 million copies of his work, many of which have been made into movies, was rejected 30 times before finally getting his first novel published. He actually threw the manuscript for his first novel into the garbage, only later to be retrieved by his wife, who believed in his dream of becoming a published author. J.K. Rowling, the woman who created Harry Potter, which has sold more than 400 million copies, and one of the most wealthiest women in the world, was a depressed, divorced, penniless, unemployed single mom. Steven Spielberg, whose movies have grossed more than $9 billion and brought him 3 Academy Awards, applied for admission and was rejected twice by the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts. As their way of saying, oops, I guess we were wrong about you, the school built a building in honor of Spielberg. Jerry Seinfeld, one of the most famous comedians, froze and was booed and jeered off stage his first time performing at a comedy club. So again, keep your quote-unquote failures in perspective by reminding yourself that some of the most successful people also experience significant failures. Key points. The best power phrase to help keep your stressors in perspective is, "It could be worse." And that's it.